Okay, 1 second. We're almost there. Technical difficulties have been resolved. Just 1 second. Okay, letting two more people in here. Lavinia, just, a couple seconds would be great. Thank you.
Hey. We can start, right, Barb?
Yep.
Okay. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I think we can just get started with the meeting. I call this Safety and Student Wellness Ad Hoc Committee meeting dated January 12th, 2023 to order. But yeah, we just want to check in with everyone, do our regular roses and thorns. So if someone wants to start us off, no, okay, Mia, why don't you start us off?
Sounds good. This week has been pretty chill actually for me. I haven't had much to do, so I've just been, chilling at home. Or not at home, at school. Anyways, Megan, you wanna go next?
Sure. It's definitely been busy just with finals, but I got to try like woodworking for the first time the other day, which is pretty fun and interesting. And I'm very happy I was able to get the chance to. Cece, do you want to go?
Sure. I've been doing a lot more tennis practice recently, which is like, I don't know, it's fun. I like it. It's every night though, so that's really exhausting. Lavinia, do you want to go?
Yeah, this week has been pretty exhausting, but it's been well and very fulfilling. So, but yeah, I'm just looking forward to the weekend and the end of the semester. Ioana, would you like to go?
Yeah, a rose is I got accepted to my dream college, and then a thorn just kind of like it's pretty. Oh, thank you guys. Also, it's just pretty busy because of the finals and things like that. Miss Hotz, do you want to go?
I'm actually gonna pass. So Michael.
Thank you. I apologize. I just came in. I'm assuming everyone's just kind of recapping how their week's been going. Mine's been really exhausting. Some of it of my own making because I went out of town to meet up with some college friends. So I kind of came in really tired. So I'll just leave it at that. Who hasn't gone? Gina?
Hi, everyone. I didn't know if we were participating. I'm Gina Agulia, and a rose for me would be that I thought today was actually kind of a nice day weather-wise for winter, so it was kind of nice. The climate is kind of weird how the climate feels really cold and then gets a little bit better, and then you're like, oh, 32, it feels pretty nice. So I was happy about that. In a thorn, I would say kind of what everyone else is saying. It's super busy. I know our students are working extremely hard, getting ready for finals and bridge week and all that stuff. So I know it's been busy. I will pass it to Ruben.
Hi, everybody. I would say my rose is the end of last year. The end of last year was really hard. So I feel like we're beginning a new year where it feels fresh and like things are starting. So it's better than at the end of the year when you're trying to finish everything. And my thorn is actually I don't share Gina's enthusiasm about the weather. I think it's so dreary and cold and dark outside. I really need the light again. So please soon. Did everybody go? Oh, Mari, sorry.
Hey, my rose is that a family member of mine who was in the hospital came home today, and maybe I'll say two roses. It was just really delightful to hear that one of our scholars got into her dream school. That is wonderful news. So double rose day. And I think everybody has gone.
I'll jump in. I would say yes, coming back. It's been a long full week. However, I will say that it has been actually, I'm impressed by the weather. I would say that is a rose because I am not, although I'm from Wisconsin, I am not a snow fan. So I'm very thankful for the mild winter so far, but I shouldn't probably say that because maybe we'll get a snowstorm like March or something, which I hope not. And I will pass it off to who hasn't gone.
I think everyone has gone. Yep. Okay, cool. I gotta say, I really want it to snow. I feel like it's January. It's supposed to be like there's supposed to be like 10 inches of snow outside, and it's just so weird right now. Like it does not feel like January. Anyway, probably will feel like January in March. So we'll wait then. But yeah, moving on to our approval of minutes. I move to approve the minutes from the meeting of the Safety and Student Wellness Ad Hoc Committee dated October 27th, 2022 as written.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
I'm sorry, can you tell me who seconded that?
Ruben.
You, okay.
Okay, we can move on to our next item on the agenda, our report on the survey results. So as you guys know, the survey questions prepared by the committee were received by the district's Research and Innovations Department, who placed them into a survey format, and it was sent out on November 8th to MSC staff, families, and students in 6th through 12th grade. And by early December, we received almost 1,900 responses, which according to the Research and Innovations team, was a really great response. But we did want to make sure that we wanted everyone to have a chance at giving their input and everything. So we extended the survey deadline from November 21st to December 19th. And it's also something to note was while the survey was open, we also did have the climate survey and another survey for staff all at the same time. So, but yeah, principals were asked to include reminders in daily announcements and tell teachers to save time during class for people to fill out the survey. And just for reference, a total result means when someone has accessed the link, opened the survey, and answered at least one of the questions on the survey. And since the survey was open, we can't know if each response was from a unique individual, even though we asked people to identify whether they were a student, staff, or guardian, and a parent. So technically one person could have taken the survey one time or 1,000 times under an anonymous or multi-use link. But an article on Friday, December 16th was run in the CAP Times, and it had a direct link to the survey. So more people were able to see it there. But that also means that non-MSD people also had access and could have completed the survey. But even though with all that like vagueness, the Research and Innovation staff said that it really was impressive that so many people responded. And we received all the data this past Tuesday, and there were a total number of responses of 9,549. And there was a 591 page kind of report or narrative. So for the first question, where we asked people to identify who they were, 48% of people were students, 19% were MSC staff, and 37% were parents or guardians. And some people may have picked more than one affiliation. So since the survey was an open-ended kind of question. There was really no report or like electronic means of reporting it. So staff and Maya and I will be reading through each of the responses and providing a survey to the themes to the core group. And that document will be provided to the members before the next ad hoc meeting so that we can start the discussion on them. But so far, the responses have been very thoughtful, unique, and insightful. And these results will provide meaningful discussions on part of the core team so we can kind of gather into 5 areas of recommendations for the board to consider as it begins to start about next year's budget. Maya, if you want to.
Yeah. So then I'll just talk quickly about the budget item and then also introduce that we have Gina Aguglia here with us, a director of cross systems and cultural or critical response, sorry. So the budget timeline for the board begins next week, where the administration will bring forward various budget components every month through March to the operations work group. The entire budget book is then compiled and then presented in April. And then we'll be having discussions beginning on the strategic alignments, including programs and personnel. So Lavinia and I will be bringing forward the recommendations from this ad hoc committee to the operations work group either in March, but definitely before the first budget book is assembled in April. The board will then take up those recommendations along with other budget considerations from April through June. And then we'll have the preliminary budget will be voted on in June for the 2023-2024 school year. Any other updates that are made to the budget from June through October, as more information becomes available, we'll definitely let everyone know. And then the final budget we approve on in October of this year. So that's kind of like just the quick rundown of how that works. Sorry, I keep having people spam call me. Yeah, so if Gina, if you just want to talk about just as the status of previous recommendations made to the prior to the safety committees. I know you have to leave out a little earlier, but I just want to give you the floor and if anyone has any questions to ask.
Gina, I'm sharing the document right now.
Great. All right. Thanks, everyone. Sorry, Barb.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. And I do also just want to add in that Dr. Leah Esser and Dr. Kristen Gatchow are both also here. They don't, not to put either of them on the spot, but they also can definitely speak to some of these recommendations as well. So I know I've been here a few times, and where I come from is having some historical knowledge. I was on the safety ad hoc back in 2020, which doesn't feel that long ago, but it is like 3 years ago. And that ad hoc went from August, or the planning started in August and it went all the way to December of 2020. So I just to give you all a timeline. The document that you see here has the topic and summary of recommendations on the far left. And then we work to kind of chunk the different recommendations into themes and then wrote possible recommendations. And then what I did is with the help of Leah and Kristen is I kind of wrote where we are at this point with the recommendations. So if you scroll down a little bit, Barb, the first big theme was overhaul of holistic restorative justice implementation. So we had a bunch of presentations on RJ implementation, lessons learned. We talked about accountability, a bunch of different stuff regarding community oversight, different things involving racial justice, and how do we connect restorative practices with like foundational restorative implications for our district and stuff like that. And one of the recommendations that came from that is to have a collaborative planning process with school staff and community partners to engage in restorative justice work. And the result should be a 3 to 5 year plan for an implementation for holistic restorative justice in MMSD. And then in the green column is where we're at right now, January 2023. So, and again, Leah or Kristen, please feel free to jump in. We have decided to look at restorative justice as part of our comprehensive approach. So that's through our social emotional learning, PBIS, et cetera. The project manager that's leading this work began in December. So we're working on that 3 to 5 year plan. And it's still a draft, so it hasn't yet been shared with stakeholders. Do you want to go to the kind of scroll down a little bit more? Leah, do you want to add anything, or is that good?
No, I think that's great. I think using more of our time for dialogue and giving just a quick high level is good. So I'll let you run with the quick summaries.
Great. The next,
Barb, you put this in board docs too, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, and then I would say, since it's in board docs too, just so you all know, is that the links on the far left are links to the actual board meetings. So if you wanted to watch those, review those, and look at the notes from those meetings, you're welcome to. Okay, the next thing would be, we themed kind of idea of restorative justice training. So not just this holistic approach with the 3 to 5 year plan, but also strategic and targeted training for all staff. So the first thing of that was the recommendation for 2 full-time school-based restorative justice positions at the high schools. And we actually have 4. So that was nice to, the recommendation was 2, and we ended up with 4. So we have 4 full-time restorative justice coordinator positions, and they're filled at West, East, La Follette, and Memorial. And then additional ESSER funds were earmarked for Shabazz Capital to support restorative justice consultation, professional development, stuff like that. These coordinators received training and opportunities to meet with the restorative justice district lead, who is Lana Stolzfus, who's, I know you has also been here to talk with you all. She was also involved in a lot of the presentations at the ad hoc back in 2020 around really trying to help people kind of connect around RJ and both implementation as well as training. Keep going. And then restorative justice staffing and other resources. So another recommendation was to make sure that there are dedicated spaces for restorative practices, like peace rooms and other spaces for mental health in the referendum for new building spaces. So referendum is underway, and schools are collaborating with contractors to do that. And then another theme came up with the disciplinary policy and interventions. So there was an obvious need for increased support for students, like empowering students to identify staff who they trust, who can support them, ensuring that staff can spend time supporting students. So really, looking for that mutual relationship. And relationship building, and really actually utilizing creative and meaningful alternatives to suspension. We know that exclusionary practices do not work, so the more that we can support more creative outlets for how are we working to utilize behavior education. So that was definitely something we, because of that, have created training opportunities for all school-based critical response teams, which I know I've mentioned before in these meetings, but those things include things like threat assessment, violence risk assessment, crisis management, stuff like that. You can keep going.
Okay.
Sure. And And then guidance for involving police, adult accountability, the Office of School Safety, which is the office that both myself and Cedric Morris are co-directors of. We were created in 2021, and that was a strategic creation to really create more proactive opportunities to connect and establish better ways of working with the police and not have these reactive relationships, and instead be working more proactively to understand each other's ways of working, to be able to go through proper channels of communicating, as well as, which I'll talk about later, like further down, is ways to do better with data collection. So another thing from there was the role of the SSA. The school security assistant, falls under our office. We are the supporters of that role, and then the school is the direct supervisor. So we do a mutual role of supporting the SSA through direct supervision at their school, as well as professional development through our office. Then the next thing was increasing youth and community role related to safety. That's definitely something that you all have talked about in this group, and I hope that we can make that happen, whether that's through internships with our office or regular opportunities for you all or other students to have input in different, whether it's a creation of an advisory group or whatnot, but definitely wanting to make sure that that's something that we put into place. So that has not been created yet, and hoping to make that happen this year. Keep going. Then we've got prevention and holistic needs related to safety. There's a request to reduce class size. Our board policy still remains unchanged from 2017 around class size, so I thought I just linked it in there. We do now have a virtual option, so that had not been created when this recommendation went in, so that has reduced some class sizes. There is a recommendation to strengthen efforts to develop, recruit, and keep staff of color, which is incredibly important, especially teaching staff. I can't speak directly from HR, but what I definitely know is that HR, as well as the board, have worked together to make significant strides to recruit staff of color. And that official data is shared with the board on a regular schedule or regular cadence. The high school has also hired SESs, or student engagement specialists, through the Department of Equity, Partnerships, and Engagement. So that was another addition to the recommendation that every high school should be allocated funding for hiring additional supports like life coaches and mentors. And so that's really what the SES is. That's kind of their role, is to really kind of help bridge some of that support around mentorship. And then curriculum instruction, at this point, it's unknown. I did reach out to curriculum instruction leads, but have not heard from them. But I know that that's definitely something that we are absolutely wanting to support. So I don't know where we are as far as a recommendation for cultural or more things like anti-racist, anti-ableist, abolitionist approach to different curriculums. And I think the last thing, all the way down, last one, is that thing I talked about with data. I am really proud of the fact that we really gotten better at how we're collecting data. I think we in this district are always trying to look for better ways to, especially we call it non-academic data. I don't know if that's like the best term, but we have a lot of really amazing, robust academic data, but we have needed to continue to work to make sure that we're collecting data on non-academic things like safety, like, social emotional learning, things like mental health and stuff like that. And so we really are really working to make an effort to do that. And our office is doing that. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I know you have to jump, but we also have Leah Esser here as well to answer questions. Mike, I see your hand first. Go ahead.
Yes, and I had two questions. First one might be for the larger group, just because maybe I missed something in a previous meeting. I haven't attended all of them, so I apologize if this has already been covered. But I thought before we had a multiple meetings wide discussion around the communication link between during high level incidents, where there was supposed to be improved communication between district leadership, building administration, and staff in order to discuss like when there are lockdowns or lockout or holds to
Mike,
explain that piece.
just so you know, I'm sorry I didn't make this clear. That what I presented was just the recommendations from the 2020 ad hoc. So that that wasn't a recommendation. So what I was presenting was just where, you know, the idea of like where were we 3 years ago and how far are we from that? And then obviously we wanted to add the additional recommendations that you all have suggested, like the communication stuff. So definitely adding that, but that wasn't an initial thing back in 2020.
I apologize for that. The second one was, do you have documentation of training for SSAs and in regards to how that's, you know, in terms of transparency, like making sure before they hit the spot, just because I have spoken with SSAs recently who have not gotten NVCI training. So I was just wondering if there's like a lever there in terms of centering that, or if that's been a discussion in your office or in your circles in terms of improving that piece.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for bringing it up. We require that all of our school security staff are trained in NVCI. We have asked several staff to make sure that they're trained. We have lots of opportunities for training. I think that there's unfortunately continues to be a very small group that is not always able to make the trainings work for their schedules. And so we are working extremely hard to make sure that everybody is trained. Otherwise, they will not be able to continue to be in their role. So if you have a specific person who is saying that they don't have training, if you could let me know, because we will do everything we can to make sure they get all the training they need. We pay them, we get them off of school, or get them subs so that they're get them sorry, I'm at Jefferson Middle School. So we get them subs, we make sure that they have time to do that, and we can pay them. So there really should be no reason that they aren't completing their training. So if you know of someone, I'd love to talk to them.
Sure, I'll send you I'll talk, and they did give me permission to share their name, so I will send that information to you and Cedric.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Sorry if that was my bad on not kind of giving a little more context of Gina's presentation. There was a question previously in one of our meetings about just like the historical data, like what previously has been done in similar ad hocs as we are moving into working on our own recommendations as a team. So I apologize for that.
No, the fault lies with me. I didn't, I think the scholars here would understand that I missed context and context clues. So that is the fault lies with me.
Okay. Ruben?
This isn't a question for Gina. It was a question for you, Maya. So I don't know if we want to let Gina go and then we can keep.
I have 10 minutes. I'm in Jefferson and I have a family meeting at Jefferson. So I can be here for 10 more minutes. If that's helpful, I can also leave if you want me to. So whatever you guys need.
Very on brand, Gina, to be in school. Great. This is for Maya. That whole budget timeline that you laid out, is that somewhere online?
I believe it is on our website. It's typically what we have followed in the past as well. But I can also send it via email if you'd like as well.
Maybe if we can just put it in the record with Barb, that would be helpful for this meeting.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Gina or Leah this time? Okay, I think Gina, we're good with you. If you want to head out, good luck on your meeting.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate all of you. Take care.
Take Take care. And so we'll move into reviewing our grid that has been updated. There were some revisions that were made to clarify some of the problem statement columns. I don't know, Barb, if you want to go ahead and share it.
Okay.
So once when you see it, there is still room for more discussion about whether these items that we have in that column are questions that need answers, and if there are problems to be solved. So Barb is showing you all, and we can kind of just take a look at that. This is in board docs as well. So if you guys need to pull it up yourself and kind of scroll through it and read through it if you haven't looked at it yet. But we can, I guess, start a discussion about it.
So if I could just add just a little bit.
Good.
The first item that we had up there last time, if you recall, was communications in general. There were a couple things under that item that didn't really fit there as an overall district-wide thing. We put them under the places where they belonged, which was with the critical response team and how communications are dealt with there, which is what Michael was referring to just a little bit ago. So that is in this grid. It's a little further down. So we're starting now, number 1, under physical safety and emergency protocols. A couple of the headers have changed just a little bit. Problem statement, reflection from administration, recommendations from administration, and then the priority score and whether something gets forwarded to the board, those stayed the same. I see that Leah has her hand raised. Go ahead, Leah.
I just wanted to add one other layer of contextualization under the recommendations section. I just want to be clear that this list, these recommendations are not necessarily exhaustive of the work that we are doing or that we see that is important. What we were trying to do was at least give you a starting point of knowing like the general direction that we're heading, or what we're prioritizing or what we see as important, to be able to give you the opportunity to either affirm that, tell us we're off track, or suggest additional action steps that might layer onto those. So I just wanted to mention that because it's certainly not everything that we're doing or that we see a need to address. So I just wanted to caveat that.
Thank you, Leah.
So between last meeting and this meeting, there have been additions from the staff under the reflection from administration and the recommendation if they made one or not. Knowing that you have not seen this document until tonight, now I know that you're not familiar with it. So there's 2 things that we can do. We can go through it row by row. Or we can give the committee a chance to review this and be ready to go to talk about this document right away when we start next week. So as you know that, okay, Maya, I can't see people, but I can see when they raise their hand because I get a message on it. So I'm just gonna let you know Ruben has his hand up.
Yes, Ruben, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry if it's not question time, but could you remind me, Maya, you said the budget discussions start next week, but we still have until March to actually finalize for the recommendations?
Yeah, so we as a board start to have the budget discussion next week.
Yeah.
And then in March, like we'll have every operations work group, which is once a month. So we'll have the one next week, and then we'll have one in February, and then one in March. And during those times, we'll be discussing the budget and additions before the first budget book, which is compiled in April.
Yeah, so we can so we can piece it together over that time. Okay, I just wanted to make that.
You actually have until June, Ruben, to potentially add something to the budget.
Okay.
Right.
But we don't have to present a package. Okay.
Yeah, if
That
I could
makes
just
sense.
clarify that just a little bit.
Go ahead, Barb.
There are 3 meetings that happen between now and when the budget book is given to the board, which happens in April. The budget development meetings that happen once a month in the operations work group right now, January, February, March, are actually just preliminary stuff that tells the board, here's the basic stuff, here's what we're talking about with personnel, here's what we're talking about salary, here's what we're talking about for benefits. Here's and some program stuff, it's just a development period. And then when they get the book in April, then the board starts talking about priorities and considerations. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense.
Okay.
So I would appreciate that. That helps me answer this question. I would appreciate the time to bounce this around with other people in my office to have before I have a conversation about it. So that was my 2 cents on if we do it now or if we wait till the next meeting.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
These recommendations are currently on the board agenda for March for the co-chairs to come to that operations work group and present whatever recommendations are coming from this committee.
Okay, you can continue, Barb. Go ahead.
Yes, in going through the grid, from the last meeting, there was some concern that the problem statement column did not actually represent problem statements that need solving, but maybe looked more like questions that needed answers. Very good observation. I think we have turned everything in that column into a question so that at least it is phrased as a problem statement. However, it would be for the committee to decide, given what has been provided by the administration since then, whether that question has received sufficient response to move on from it, or if there is something still remaining in that item that is a problem area that needs more, that needs to maybe go to the board or back to the administration about either a change in practice or something that needs resources from the board. So just want to give that, I want to put that out there as the option for the core team to discuss each of those and decide, is what you've been given by the administration sufficient for the possible question, or does a problem still exist that needs some kind of resolution? So in saying that, after people have had a chance to review the responses from the administration, I am hoping that next week that we will be able to jump right away to, okay, 1A, is that a problem? Is that a question that has now been responded to sufficiently? Is there still something in there that needs to be prioritized by this committee? That's all I've had on it, other than allowing people to take a good look at it, and everything is in board docs.
Yeah, so with that being said, I guess we can just see who there's not necessarily a vote that needs to happen to move this forward, but I guess if we can get a consensus on if we would like to give enough time for everyone to kind of digest these items, and then also if there are any questions that people may have right now that may have already looked at this, that we might get some questions answered. So then when we as a full team go back and look or come back next week to review it more in depth and actually make changes and adjustments, that those questions are answered, and or we can write them down to get those questions answered. So yeah.
So obviously there's one more component to this, and that is the survey.
The
So
survey,
the
yep.
themes and information and the report that we're going to provide to you before the next meeting, those items will fit into the grid as well. Are those things in there that are the themes that are coming from the survey? Things that we want to recommend to the board. So there will be this component of what's already in the grid. And then the survey results that will be ready for discussion next week. I can tell you just a little bit about what has already been observed about the survey, that there are very obvious themes that are rising to the top. And as they already mentioned to you, I would say in reviewing the responses to the first question, that the responses that we are getting are extremely thoughtful. They're coming from a varied group of people. There are students, staff, and parents who very definitely are from MMSD who have responded to this. When in going through it, I will say that I was extremely proud of the people who responded to this survey, because they very definitely have messages that they want to convey. And I think you will be pleased with what you see from the report about what is coming across. And that's only, we've only been through probably 25% of what's in the report so far, because it's pretty big.
Yes, I will ditto that, Barb. Very good responses.
Thank you.
Any questions that folks may have about the grid that you'd like to get answered now, and why we have administration here on the call as well? And by all means, like, you don't have to ask right now. Like, we can definitely come back next week and ask those questions once we had a time to digest it and have some updates from the survey as well in here. Okay. I'm not seeing any hands. So I'm guessing that is a consensus also on waiting until next week to really dive deep into this and really get some things adjusted and changed and or solidified. We'll have a couple more meetings that are slated for January 19th and the 26th. 26th is our last meeting for the ad hoc, but the meetings will include the public appearances and reports from the webpage and inputs and proposals for establishing the Superintendent's Advisory Panel on Safety and Wellness. So that's a way for us, as we mentioned at the way beginning, when we first started, was a way that we can continue this as an ongoing continuous loop of communication between students, staff, other stakeholders, and the administration. So that was what we were able to do, is create the Superintendent's Advisory Panel on Safety and Wellness. But for us as an ad hoc, our last day is January 26th. So just some more dates for you all to keep in mind. So I'm seeing nods, and we're good as far as taking until next meeting to really dive deep.
Okay, I would ask that people really watch their emails, because you'll be hearing from us within a few days about what we can provide you ahead of time. And in the meantime, you can look at the grid, which is already there. So if you want to start with that, that would be awesome. Yes, but we will get you the report on the survey ASAP.
Yes, we are reading every single response that came through on that 591 page document. But we'll definitely put it, that is a fact. So we'll definitely put it together for you all so that it's more succinct and it's not 591 pages. But with that, I mean, I'm down to take a motion to adjourn unless there are questions. Oh, Rupen, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Okay, another question. I just
Yeah.
want to clearly understand. So we're getting a synthesized top line version of the report. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, thank
will
you.
begin
That
that.
sounds much better.
Yes.
The
As you
answer is
might
yes.
guess, there when you have a narrative responses to every single thing that you have on the survey,
Mhm.
there's very little support that you're going to get from any kind of software on the planet that's going to tell you the results in a nice, easy way. Just doesn't happen like that. So we are taking the words of our people and doing the best we can to put them into themes and see what words are coming up more often than others. And taking direction from our research and innovation department about how best to do that.
Yep.
So it's a manual process, but a very good one.
Thank you, Ruben, for that. So yeah, I can entertain a motion to adjourn if no one else has any questions.
So move.
Is there a second? No one wants to adjourn? Okay, Mike seconded. And then all those in favor, just say aye or raise your hand.
Thank you.
Okay, it's unanimous. Everyone have a good night. Thank you all for joining us, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 meetings and getting the work finished and well, as finished as we can. Okay, have a good, happy new year.
Bye, everyone.
Lavinia and Maya, if you could hold on for 1 second.